It's time to talk fantasy football. It's time to let them know. Where you let us crunch the numbers while you crush the competition. So grab your playbooks and crack a cold one, because here's your hosts, Teak and Baney.
All right, guys, we're going to talk about the week 3 sit-ems. We're going to go around the horn here. Starting with the QB position. Baney, who's your QB you're sitting week 3?
Yep. So probably the least excited I've ever to put a name on this list. It's gonna stick true with our theme from the Stardom episode. It is make it or break it, and Joe Burrow is on my hot seat this week. Nobody likes to see two division matchups to start the season off, and that's exactly what Cincinnati got. Two brutal in division matchups, and he looks rough, man. He looks rusty. The calf is, I think, way worse than anybody thought. Um, his highest QBR so far is 61.5. And it doesn't just stop there, man. It makes me concerned about Jamar's value moving forward, which is not a place I expected to be. I have him as a keeper in my league. He's by far my favorite player in the league, and he can't get the ball to save his life. The offense looks crazy different. And Joe can't move. Like, the fastest I saw him move last week was to get the massage gun for his calf. It looks bad. And it's so, like, disappointing because, like, I think there's a couple of guys in the league that you root for no matter what. I think Joe, I think Josh Allen. There's a couple of guys, and you just want to see him win. You want to see him play good, and it's always exciting. And Joe has not been any of those things so far, and it's really disappointing. And yeah, I think we saw enough through the first 2 weeks, and I don't think he should come off your bench until he proves that he's healthy. And I don't know if we're going to see that for a while. So he's my QB to sit in week 3.
So, touching off that, Baney, Burrow, like I said, we touched on the mailbag. I mean, this team has been the most surprising going 0-2, being a Steelers fan in the North. I mean, that's all they talked about. The only thing that I'm disagreeing with, if you drafted Joe Burrow, you probably drafted him within the first 5 rounds. I don't know who you're going to sit him for, though. I mean, did you take a Dak? If you took like a Dak Prescott, or if you took a Fields, if I drafted Burrow, I'm not drafting a backup quarterback. So I don't disagree with his play and the injury. The injury is really concerning to me after watching these first 2 weeks. So, I mean, the sit him, I love the mentality of it, but I just, who are you going to start over him is my question as a fantasy owner. If you planned for this, I mean, if I got him, I wouldn't have planned for it. So that's the only thing I can say about that. I mean, Baney,
He had
Teak.
6 points in week 1. I think just about anybody with the pulse is going to outscore him right now. I hate to say it. I don't want him to see him. I don't want to talk about him in this way. I would prefer him to be on the start list every week. I would prefer 300-400 yard games. Jamar's eating, and everybody's winning in fantasy. But it's just not been the product on the field. And
Yeah.
I think that there's some surprise QBs that are excelling. The Mac Joneses. We talked about Baker's potential matchup against this injury-riddled Philly defense right now. It'd be a lot easier if Joe would just get an injury designation. You can put him on an IR spot. That would be really great. You wouldn't have to sacrifice that. I don't think you should drop him by any means, but yeah, it's just brutal. The points value for where you drafted him it's a real killer right now. So
Yeah,
tough decision to make for fantasy owners.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
some
really tough.
some people think he starts slow, some think it's the calf. I think it's the calf. If that's the case, it's going to be tough because his schedule down the line, yeah, he has some easy games coming up. after the bye week, if this calf continues to linger after the bye week, it starts heating up again with San Fran and Buffalo. So I would like for them to come out and say what it is, to be honest with you too. But with Badge as well, I don't know who you're going to start over him. Yeah, week 1 it was a complete dud. Week 2 picked it up a little bit. Not where he needs to be by any means, because where you drafted him. But it's tough. You're gonna have to find a QB on the waiver wire. If you're in a 10-man, maybe Jordan Love's sitting there still for you. Maybe Baker. Baker's been slinging the rock, but I don't know. I don't know your options outside of where you drafted Burrow. But it is a valid sit as well, so you're kind of in a tough position, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Baney, I don't disagree with the sit at all. I'm just saying, fantasy owners, if you drafted Burrow, did you plan for this? I mean, if I drafted him, I wouldn't have planned for it. So, I mean, pick up someone on the waiver wire, start them with a good matchup, do a little spot start. So I don't disagree with it, but who would have thought this was going to be this big of a thing with the calf?
100%.
All right, moving on to your QB badge. Who you sitting week 3?
All right, boys. So in my hand, I still got the old deed here. Jordan Love owns the Bears. I still got that deed. But this week, I think he's going to get his first dogfight. And I'm going to sit him this week. I think it's going to be a scrappy, low-scoring game. This New Orleans defense, I mean, they're very stingy. I think it's going to be a low-scoring battle, not a fantasy owner's forte to say. So this week, I'm going to sit Jordan Love. These first 2 weeks have been all light and shining, godsend. I think this is the week he's going to have his first bust low scoring game. I mean, so Jordan Love's going to be my sit this week against the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, no Aaron Jones to really help bail him out. I would love to see what this offense looks like with Christian Watson. Um, the Saints defense is real. There's been a reason that they've been strongly backed by fantasy shows everywhere to use that Saints defense in their first 6 weeks. They don't face a quarterback that was projected to be in the top 10, I think, at all this year. Jordan Love is excelling more than anybody predicted, I think. But Saints defense for real. That's a tough matchup. That's a tough draw. So good pick.
Yeah, I agree with this. I agree with the sit. Atlanta's defense is nothing extraordinary like these top defenses whatsoever. They held him to 150 yards through the air. Yeah, he had 3 passing touchdowns, but that's the stat that's kind of eye popping to his yardage comparison. I think it's a great sit this week with that Saints defense. Like Baney said, everybody's telling you the Saints defense the first 6 weeks to use them. After that, they're going to get their load of Minnesota's offense, which is clicking right now. The Chargers, Detroit, Kansas City. So yeah, I like the pick.
Love me some love, but not this week.
My QB. Okay, in our latest episode was a stardom for someone. For me, he's a situm. And let me know if your hand is over this panic button yet. It's Justin Fields. I know I was on this ship alone, cruising down this ship by myself. Everybody was telling me this guy was going to be a fantasy MVP. He's going to be a league winner, all the above. And no one wanted to listen to Teak. Didn't want to hear anything I had to say. But if you watch the tape is not good whatsoever. Missing wide open receivers that can walk in the end zone, not even seeing them. Overthrows, and he's not doing what you drafted him to do, and that's running the football. So just that alone, and to add on top of it, he's going to Arrowhead, I believe, this week, right? It's in Kansas City. So all I have to say is good luck, Mr. Fields. Good luck.
Yeah, we talked about it. It's make or break week, 100%. Um, I'm just hoping that we can ride this ride until it finally gets fun again, like last year. And panic button is like, you know how they have like the glass case over the panic button. I
Oh,
have flipped the glass case up.
it's up. I
It's
see the sweat
right
dripping.
there. Yeah. People talk about him throwing the ball and all this stuff. I don't want him to throw the ball. I argue that he's 10 times better when he doesn't throw the ball, but just run forward. Let him run forward,
It's
coach.
part of the position. He has to be able to throw the ball. If the pass opens up the run, and the passers
Yeah.
are open, so it's I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of problems over there. It's looking for Chicago. I mean, just like he said, the panic button. You need two people to turn that key. That was me and Baney. We were big on Fields. He was going to be a winner. So me and Baney might be turning the key at the same time. I'll tell you when I thought about lifting that. Well, when I lifted that glass case that Baney mentioned was when I saw that pick six to Shaq Barrett on the 1 yard line. I was like, what the heck is going on with that panic? I mean, he's a tough matchup. I mean, he held T Law to 9 points. 9 points with that Jags offense. I mean, Chris Jones is no joke. I mean, to sit him, I don't disagree with at all, but I want Fields to be a stardom because I was big on him. Baney was big on him. We might be turning the key, Baney, a little too early. So
I I think
tough matchup.
this week and next week, even though Denver's offense is I don't know what it is this year, but their defense is kind of sneaky. So the next 2 weeks, Washington is a coin flip. I would say I would say for defensive wise, but after those three, it does his schedule does soften up in favor of him with Minnesota, the Raiders, the Chargers. Then he comes back and plays the Saints. So it does soften up after those three. He gets three soft games, but his demeanor might be down after Denver if Denver holds him still too. So I don't know if you guys seen it. A lot of Bears fans on social media. I know what is it, Big Cat from Barstool's a huge Bears fan. He's already wanting to ship him out of Chicago. So you're already starting to hear those chirps going on from the fan base as well.
That's a big mental game, and I think right now his confidence is not there. So hopefully, not a favorable matchup, but he has to figure it out now.
But moving on here to the running back position, Baney. Who you sitting week 3 for the running backs?
Yeah, so I was looking through the list. I was, going through, and there's three names that stuck out to me, three matchups, and I'm gonna pick the one you wouldn't have thought that I was gonna pick. So it was between James Conner playing Dallas this week, brutal matchup.
Oh yeah.
I've talked myself into the fact that he is going to get the quick little dump offs. He's going to make himself fantasy relevant in a full PPR league. It's going to happen. They're not going to have time to think about it. He's going to get touches. Crossed him off my list. Najee Harris made my list. Decided I just didn't want to go there. We talked about him already at length, where we both stand. But Rachaad White is my name that I landed on. Because I decided we're going to stick with this trend we're going with. It's make or break. The hype for this kid has been unreal and, in my eyes, unwarranted. Fantasy experts everywhere will disagree with me. However, he had a lackluster week 1. He had a boom week in week 2. I will argue to say he has not faced a run defense like what Philly has in Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Philly's letting up right around 3 yards a carry. I think we've talked about it at length. I think this game could be a shootout, and in order for it to be a shootout, it's going to take Mike Evans and Godwin, and it's going to take Baker throwing the ball. Um, I just think if Rashad White shows up and he does what he's projected to do from all these fantasy experts, then I'll finally accept that I might be wrong on this guy. But I just think that they already have a backup plan in Tucker, and yeah, I'm just not a fan. I didn't see anything that really impressed me last year. Everybody else makes me feel like I'm blind for saying that, but I really just don't love this kid. And like I said, I think Philly's pass defense has been sus, but the run defense is still Georgia Bulldogs everywhere, man. And Fletcher Cox is still getting it done. Brandon Graham's still getting it done. But yeah, that's who I landed on. Like I said, make or break. Maybe I eat my words. Maybe I'm right. I don't know, but yeah, that's my sit this week.
Yeah, no doubt that that is a matchup nightmare for a running back. I got Rashad White in the league. I mean, I might switch him out. I haven't decided yet. I haven't really got to play with him much. Got a few days, but if he's going to score points, it's going to be dump offs and receptions. Breaking one, find the end zone, getting little chunk plays here and there. But I think it's going to be all Baker and Evans and Godwin, and I like the sit, Benny. That is a bad matchup for White. Like I said, I was big on White going into it. I got him in one league, but that's a tough matchup. So I don't know, Teak, if you want to shed some light on this.
Yeah, as far as what Benny mentioned with the whole rushing aspect, yeah, it is a matchup nightmare for him. As far you hit on the point I was gonna bring up, as far as if they're gonna have to pass the ball, yeah, he's gonna get those dump downs then. His receptions went up from last week as well, so he does catch the ball out of the backfield. So he did have 5 receptions last week. So that might be his bread and butter to get you that 10, 11 point where he's projected. So you might not see much in the rushing department, but can't expect then he's going to catch the rock.
Absolutely.
But moving on for you, Badge, at the running back position.
So running back position, I'm going back to Chi-Town, baby, Chicago. I'm sitting Khalil Herbert. I feel like it's going to be a Justin Fields game. Chris Jones is back. That's a completely different defense now. I feel like Fields is going to be scrambling for his life, trying to make plays. Again, it's a make or break game for him. He's going to want to throw it, run it, make plays. I believe in these first two games, Herbert, like I thought Herbert was going to have a decent year, but he had single digit touches in each of his first two games. And I think it's going to be the same thing, trying to keep up with Mahomes. I think that run game's going to go out the window. And I think he's going to get 8 to 9 touches again, not be a factor. They're going to stuff him. So I'm not liking this matchup at all. I'm sitting Herbert. So
Yeah, I would argue he's not going to be the RB1 there much longer.
That's what,
Roshan.
yep, that's what I was just going to touch on. It looks to me like this snap percentage is getting closer and closer in Roshan's favor week by week. Um, Even the targets. I mean, week one, Roshan got a lot of targets. Uh, the targets fell out for Herbert as well. Any?
All all roads lead back to Fields, man. I think Roshan could be the key to getting the pass offense moving. Like you just dink dunk. It's not going to go to Herbert. That backfield's been a revolving door for what years? I mean, we were promised.
What, since
What's
Forte was our last.
Cohen? We were promised Tariq Cohen. He tore his leg out, and then we were promised Montgomery, and then Montgomery wasn't the guy. And then Herbert. Now Herbert's not the guy. Now Roshan's there. Like just a trend, and I just think Herbert's the latest fatality in that backfield. So not a
Yeah,
fan.
yeah, I like the sit. All numbers are leading towards. Even his attempts keep going down, which it's if you look at the numbers, it's really interesting. The snap percentage went up tremendously, but his attempts went down. So you can't really say you're using him as a decoy because they're not giving him the ball or even target him at all. So it's kind of like, what is he out there for? Like,
I think they're hoping for the pass blocking. I don't know.
He ain't doing that either.
He's a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a 5. He's a 5'9", 212 pound
Chip
running
shot.
back.
Chip shot. I don't know.
So I don't know, man. But I like the sit. I do.
100%.
For me, I know I'm gonna get some feedback on this one. You've probably seen it on. Everybody's talking about this guy right now. He's probably your number one waiver wire pickup right now. And my sit-em for the week is Jerome Ford. And I'm gonna tell you why. Yes, he is gonna be your waiver wire one pickup. He will be the RB1 there. They just announced that. He did have a good game fantasy wise last week, yes. Uh, Outside of his one rush for 70 yards, he's done 15 carries for 36. The previous week actually duplicated that, 15 carries for 36. Snap percentage went up, attempts are the same. So you already kind of see a trend, what he did with the attempts he did get. Um, Going against a Tennessee defense as well, I second ranked defense against the running back position. It's a tough matchup. It really is. Uh, I have no faith left. I don't know about you guys in Deshaun Watson. I know beginning of the season the reports came out that he was looking good. Others said that he wasn't looking good. Well, I don't know if it was just Pittsburgh or what. He looked awful. Uh, get rid of the ball. You're getting out of the pocket. Don't run back in the pocket just to take a sack. I just think this Browns offense is kind of scattered right now. I really do. Outside of Amari Cooper, I think Nick Chubb was the glue, and I already see Jerome Ford being maybe eventually replaced because they already brought in Kareem Hunt for in Cleveland just to talk about a contract. And it does make the most sense. It really does. He knows the system. He's familiar with the offense, knows all the guys in that locker room. It just makes sense. So why trade for someone and lose draft capital when you can just bring a guy who knows the system in? So that's how I look at it. And Kareem Hunt is no flop fantasy player either. There's weeks where Chubb and Hunt, you were starting them together in some fantasy
Yep.
leagues. So that's the way I look at it, and that's why he's my sit, even though a lot of people are high on him going into this week.
Yeah, I'm higher than you guys are on Jerome Ford. However, there's certain defenses that you just kind of have to avoid, especially if you're banking on a waiver target. Not a favorable matchup this week at all. Titans rush defense is for real. It has been. Yeah, guy getting his first start in the NFL. I don't think that's a defense you want to make that start against. So I think it's a safe pick because I think a lot of people are excited. Like Browns fans are going to be excited, especially people who handcuffed him to Chubb. I saw a lot of people. If you were in a league with a Browns fan and they didn't get Chubb, they might have snuck a flyer late because the team was really high on Ford all off season. He was one of the main reasons that Hunt didn't get re-signed there. They chose their guy. They let Dearness Johnson walk. Um, but man, yeah, any other week I would push back heavily. Titans this week, I want no part of that Browns offense this week. I really don't. So that's a good sit.
Yeah, and I mean I agree with the sit for sure. It's not that I'm low on Ford. It's just was big on Chubb. Those are some big shoes to fill. I mean, Chubb makes everyone better. And dude, when he got hurt, you guys know how much I hate the Browns. I honestly feel bad for Chubb. I mean, that guy's so humble. He's a great player. He gives it his all. So to see him go down like that, that's really disheartening. But with Ford this week against the matchup with those shoes to fill, that playbook designed for Chubb, those number two backs in Cleveland always pair well with Chubb, I feel like. In this matchup against Tennessee, I just don't see it there. I mean, I think they're going to give Ford some early carries just to boost that confidence if Hunt doesn't come in, because like Teak said, he knows the system. But no, that's a good sit this week. At least till Ford, if he's the guy, gets going and then he establishes his role. I mean, I'd like to see the sit this weekend as Titans.
I can't agree with you more with what you're saying about big shoes to fill. I mean, they put the graphic up during the game. I didn't know this, but he averages 5.3 yards per carry, which is third in NFL history behind Jamal Charles and Bo
The beast.
Jackson. Like, yeah, like anybody coming in behind that, like if that's your expectations, like tamper those expectations because that's historical. And he's not a flashy guy, but like he gets it done. He gets it done week after week. And yeah, there's zero expectations this week. If Ford crushes, then I think we are having a different conversation for week 4. But man, yeah, talk about a show and prove. That's gonna be a rough matchup.
Just
For sure.
another thing about Chubb, dude. It just sucks. It's the same knee he hurt in 2015 at
Georgia.
Georgia. It really is. This might be I hope it's not, but it might be a career ender for him. But it just hate to see that kind of talent and injuries. It sucks in this game, but
Mhm.
it does happen. So hopefully we'll get to see him again on the field. But if not, in my eyes, dude, he goes down as one of the top running backs I got to watch.
Yeah, the
For
guy's
sure.
an absolute beast. Even when he got hit, he no pain in his face. He was just disappointed, you know? So that's why I feel bad for him. The guy is all around good player and humble.
Moving on to the wide receivers. Who's your week 3 sit 'em at the wide receivers, Benny?
It's gonna be a trend. I think it won't be the last time this kid makes the list, and it's a bummer. Reigning rookie of the year, Garrett Wilson. Curse of being attached to Zach, man. I understand he's had a touchdown both weeks. However, last week he really just had one big boom play. Um, Pats aren't going to let that happen. They just limited Tyreek to 40 yards. I understand he still had a touchdown, but I'd take Tyreek Hill's talent over Garrett Wilson's talent any day. And that rookie cornerback that the Pats got is good. He's very good. They had an interception, 2 forced fumbles, and a sack against Miami. They had 3 sacks and a forced fumble against Philly. Um, those are far more efficient, powerful, and effective offenses than what the Jets are working with. I think the Pats are going to get after that offensive line. And I don't think Zach's going to have the opportunity to get Garrett Wilson the ball. Yeah, and I think the Pats have exceeded expectations, even though they're 0-2. Like I get that they haven't got a win, but the defense is good. Defense is really good, and they pulled a freaking horrible card getting the Eagles and the Dolphins to start their season off. I don't think their record reflects what that team is. Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson puts up a lackluster game this week, and yeah, I think Jets are going to start making some phone calls, reaching out to some people because it's not going to work out. They got too much talent on that roster to waste it week after week, and I think that this week is just going to make that noise louder for them. So Garrett Wilson, sorry.
Yeah, and that's what a shame. I mean, dude, I was big on Garrett. I think we all become fan favorites when we watch Hard Knocks. I mean, Garrett Wilson brings a lot of energy and hype. I mean, I am just not sold on Zach Wilson. I mean, the confidence is not there. I think he even said it in Hard Knocks that his confidence went down each game, and I think it's doing the same. And I don't trust Zach Wilson to get him the ball. And I got Garrett Wilson in a league. I had picked 10. Coming back, I got him, and I was so pumped that he was there. I thought he was going to go back to back and pick 12. And now I'm considering starting Nico Collins over him. I mean, Baney loves Nico. You know, I'm just kidding, Baney.
You come in a believer, dude. I can't deny it after this week, dude. Target shares there, everything. I put him in a DFS lineup I didn't tell you about just so I didn't hide my shame.
But it's just a shame, man. I wish Zach could that's a team that's a waste of a defense unless Zach can get that confidence, take that step, and then he has great running game, and Garrett Wilson can make Lazard better, and I love the sit. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm considering, and I took him in the second round, so I'm not sold on Zach.
Yeah,
Would you trade Garrett Wilson as a fantasy owner?
I don't think I'll get enough for him, because I invested him in early on. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
but
only
like, at
thing
what
about
point
trading
do
him.
you throw? But at what point do you throw round evaluations out the window and actually just make a trade based on productivity? Like, I understand some of this right now that I'm about to say might not be realistic, but it's like if somebody's like, you got an Ohio State homer in your league, they have Puka, and they're like, hey, let's talk. Are you going to be like, no, I invested a second round pick in Garrett Wilson? Like, no, like
no.
you're not. And it's like, I don't know. I've seen some crazy, crazy trades on Twitter or, these other spaces, Discords. And like, I don't know, man. Maybe in a dynasty league, you could probably rip somebody right now for Garrett Wilson. I personally would sell. I wouldn't buy. I don't think I would buy Garrett Wilson right now, but I definitely try to sell him.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I don't know if they're making calls. I mean, this Jets team had a lot of hype. Do you want to waste it? Maybe make some calls. What's
So,
second guessing me is that 70-yard touchdown he broke and then I thought about trading him the week before, and then he made that play. But maybe you're right. I think you got to sell him. Take.
so here's the thing, which I'll be devil's advocate for both sides here. Yes, this is a sit-em. Belichick will take out the number one option, which is Garrett Wilson. This is a valid sit. Um, on the other end here, he is getting targeted a lot by Zach Wilson. Can't underestimate that. Now, yes, he's getting targeted. Are they good throws? Probably not. Now, it all depends on the coaching staff on how they're going to use Garrett Wilson. You can't use Garrett Wilson the same that you would for Aaron Rodgers with the deep balls. You have to get him in short yardage, slants, quick, quick screen passes. They have to use him in different ways, which I haven't seen yet, which I'm shocked by because you're comparing Aaron Rodgers' ability to Zach Wilson, and the playbook's the same, which doesn't make sense. They need to tweak their play style. So on that end, if they do tweak the play style, he is catching these little short dumps and slants. Hey, Michael Thomas made a living, and Michael Thomas was the PPR god there for a while. So
Yeah, I think we'd all be selling on Zach, not Garrett, which is a shame. So make some calls,
yeah.
like Baney said.
But moving on to my wide receiver here, um, I have Marquise Brown at mine. He had a decent week last week, but he goes up against a juggernaut of a secondary this week in Dallas. Fewest points given not only to the running back position but also the wide receiver position. There's no way I'm putting him in anything this week. DFS, anything. Marquise Brown is not touching any of my lineups this week.
I couldn't agree with you more. I actually have the same as my situm. I mean, I'm disagreeing with Miley Cyrus this week. The Hollywood sign is not there. I'm not starting any wide receiver against this defense. This Dallas defense is scary. I mean, I think they're making us all believers. I'm sitting them. That's all I can say. I mean, unless he breaks a big play like Garrett did,
I
he
don't
has
think
no chance.
I don't think there is a world where you can convince me Joshua Dobbs and Marquise Brown are going to put up fantasy numbers against one of the top defense. Like
They're scary.
I don't see it. I don't see it. Just saying it, I can't make a argument against it. I don't know.
I mean, I can't wait to see the Cowboys versus the Eagles. I'm excited about that. I mean, that's going to be a battle, Baney.
I think, dude, shout out to Josh Jobs for just showing up every week.
Yeah.
Just showing up and just being like, let's just play football and like put out some decent tape because I think he's He's done pretty decent with what he's had to work with. I've never been a Hollywood Brown guy. Um, and it's just evident, like, they're just not a good team at all. Top to bottom, don't like it. I don't
So
like anybody going up against Dallas. I've said it before. There's the Dallas defense and the Jets defense. I would have a hard time starting any quarterback facing them. So therefore, like that would goes hand in hand with the wide receivers. You telling me you're going to win a matchup against Diggs or Stephon Gilmore?
so
I don't.
I'll give Dobbs his flowers for last week, even though he did go against the Giants. Uh, Week before against Washington, he actually had .98 fantasy points against the Commanders.
He showed up 3 minutes before the game.
I understand, and that was the right call by Arizona, to be honest with you, playing him. Um, but this is a different monster. It really is. So,
Have a crime victims hotline queued up.
and
Yeah, and I think Hollywood will be okay during the season just because Arizona is going to be slinging the rock most games.
yeah,
Someone has to catch the ball. I mean, just like going back to Nico. I mean, he's the guy.
so let me
But
just
I hate this matchup.
so here's just going against their schedule here. After Dallas, they take a trip to San Fran.
Okay. Yep. I didn't
Since
look ahead.
since he's a little lackluster. Rams, Seattle, Baltimore, Cleveland, Atlanta.
Oof.
They come back with Pitt, bye week, San Fran, and Philly. So there's some games in there where Marquise Brown and him can get some numbers, but that's a tough little schedule Arizona got.
It is. But fantasy owner's best friend is garbage time. That's what I'm banking on.
Yeah, that's true.
Not favorable matchups. You nailed it. I didn't look that far ahead. So
Yeah, a couple episodes ago, Benny opened my eyes of looking down the line here, so I started looking down the line for future maybe trade acquisitions, trade styles. But
that's why we're here. 3 minds are better than one.
so moving on to the tight end position here to wrap up the sit-ems. Benny, who you sitting at the tight end position week 3?
Yeah, so opening the year, everybody was kind of like, "Yo, like keep an eye on this guy. I think he might, be of value." And he's just panned out not to be at all, and that's Tyler Higbee. Um, the target share, you would think he would, you know, be able to benefit from with Cup being out, and that's just not the case at all because Puka Nakua is a human Swiffer vacuum. He just gets all the targets, sucks them all up, and he's making the most of his rookie year, man. These first 2 games, 35 targets. It's an unreal target share percentage, north of like 30. Um, since he is averaging 35 yards a game to the tight end, um, the Rams absolutely pound Kieran Williams in the red zone. Um, that's where your tight end is supposed to cash in. That's where he's supposed to get all of his work is in the red zone. And I don't think this guy gets thought about for a second in that offense. Tutu Atwell has outperformed anybody's expectations. He was just a little speed guy. He's carrying his weight. Um, Van Jefferson's Van Jefferson, nothing impressive. But that being said, Higbee is far less fantasy relevant than I thought he was going to be. I didn't think he was going to be good, but I thought that as a lack of options, he was going to be sufficient. Not the case. Absolutely not the case. Don't like it. Don't like this matchup. And I just think Puka Nakua is going to blow up your Twitter threads again this week. He's going to have a million targets. He's going to catch them all. And yeah, it's just going to be a weird year for this Rams offense. And yeah, we're here for it, man. This is what fantasy does, man. We put in all this work, we read all this stuff, we watch stuff, and we find out 2 weeks into the season that we don't know anything, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
See Tyler
Oh yeah.
Higbee.
It's a crazy first couple weeks. I mean, Williams, like you said, you nailed it. If Williams they weren't feeding him in the red zone. I mean, I would say Higbee could get a touchdown, you know. And you got Puka now, you got Williams. I think it's a good sit unless somehow he gets one of those lucky tight end touchdowns and a spot start, you know, that we all hope for. So I agree with you. So I'll pass it on to Teak.
Yeah, I like to sit as well. His targets did go up to 7 last week, which was a good sign for him, even though he only had 3 catches. And yeah, these wide receivers that came out and surprised all of us, Tutu and Puka. Puka's just the Ash Ketchum of the NFL. He's just gonna catch them all. So it's just unfortunate for Tyler Higbee, but hey, it's good for the Rams that they found value where no one else did.
Shout out for that.
But Badge, moving on to your tight end to wrap it up here for week 3.
So I'm going back to Cleveland. I'm sitting Njoku. These first 2 weeks have not been friendly for tight ends against the Titans. Not to mention with Chubb, that playbook had a lot to do with Chubb. Chubb being the guy run, pass. That's a big piece, not only in the run game. Again, I know Ford could be the guy where he's a rookie. Rookie running backs are usually hits, but Chubb being gone, I think it's going to hurt him, and not to mention the fumble. I think Watson lost confidence in him. He's going to be looking for Cooper with those clutch catches. I don't like the matchup. I'm going to sit Njoku this week.
Yeah, I think Njoku is going to be the next name to come out of Cleveland as a very successful, Pro Bowl-esque, good tight end that just had his career absolutely wasted in Cleveland. They produce at that position year after year, player after player, and yet manage to do absolutely nothing with it. And that's Njoku shows us a play. It feels like every week where you just realize how much of a freak athlete the guy is, and just a waste, man. And the fact that like Watson is just not that guy. It's more evident every game we watch. And I don't know. I mean, you're a Steelers guy. I don't know how much you pay attention to Brown stuff in the off season. Teak, you crush your Falcons stuff down there. I unfortunately have a ton of Browns relatives, and I see this crap all the time. But Philly also played them in the offseason, and the Browns beat writers, local writers, have wrote it out all summer long that the pass offense has not looked impressive. It's been disappointing. They haven't been able to move the ball. And that's been through camp. And now we're coming into week 3, and it's been a topic week 1, week 2. The pass offense looks terrible. It sucks. It really sucks because it wasn't supposed to look this way. Fantasy owners everywhere, you know. But yeah, Njoku, I think it's a no brainer. You got to sit him, and unfortunately, maybe
Now,
start looking waivers.
now, do you think the pass offense has been this bad because of Watson not being right in the right system?
I just don't know if
'Cause that's
he.
a narrative going around right now.
I don't know. Stefanski's produced successful offenses. Minnesota, he was successful. He was successful with Baker. Um, to say that now all of a sudden it's the system, I can't agree with that. Amari Cooper had a career season last year. Did it with Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett was a serviceable quarterback last year. Not pretty, not a fancy name by any means, but he was. The numbers and efficiency show that. And Njoku was relevant in fantasy last year. Had a decent little run with Jacoby. I don't think it's a system problem. I think it's a quarterback problem. And I've been saying this, and I haven't really heard anybody else talking about this, but he is a Southern quarterback. Played in Clemson, played in Houston, all this stuff. You know what it does in Cleveland for most of the year? It pisses rain and snow and sleet. So what we're seeing now, monsoon in week 1, well, imagine that at 20 degrees. Like, this is going to get worse throughout the year. So I don't think it's a system problem. I think that I think I think you dodged a bullet by him going to Cleveland instead of Atlanta. I really do. I'm not a fan. I think he's put out enough film to show that we're not crazy to think this way. There was all the rumors of him being this mobile quarterback and stuff, and I I think he's just ran himself into just not being relevant. I think that's where his mobility's led him. I don't think he's that good.
I,
And it sucks because players like Njoku are getting tanked because of it.
I just don't know where this offense is going wrong. Look at their depth chart, not the running backs anymore, but in the receiver room there, top to bottom from everybody in that receiver room is outrageous. Amari Cooper, Marquise Goodwin, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman, who they just drafted, Donovan Peoples-Jones. David Bell got some looks in that Steelers game too. All these guys can catch a football. Like, I'm not understanding what's going on in Cleveland, but it's not good. And they can make those jokes from last season. I believe it was the Steelers, I think, when they said the Browns are the Browns, but they're going back to being the Browns, it seems like. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean,
I I
good. Benny.
you just like you take that roster that you just listed. Would Danny Dimes kill to have this receiver core? Would Russell Wilson kill to have this receiver core? Like
I think anybody would, to be honest with you. I mean,
and then
get
to say it's a system problem is crazy. Like Jacoby Brissett was making this work. Amari Cooper had a career year last year. Like these guys are talented. Cedric Tillman is a monster, dude. And Donovan Peoples Jones he doesn't get many targets, but when he does, it's a 15-yard gain. Like and he catches the ball. Like I don't know. I'm not a Browns fan, and I get defeated watching this team play. Like it's like I don't like. Yeah, you got to make your rounds, console your sad uncles. It's
uh,
exhausting being a supporter of Browns fans.
Yeah, I think everyone who knows me knows how I feel about the Browns, and I honestly almost say they're cursed. I mean, every year this defense. I mean, on paper, this team should make a playoff run every year. Looking at it at the beginning of the season, I don't think Deshaun Watson's gonna have a bad year, but I, I don't know. I mean, losing Chubb hurts big. Deshaun Watson, we know he can ball, but it just you could tell he doesn't seem comfortable. I mean, he makes some good plays here and there. I just don't know. I don't know if it's an interior within this organization. I don't know what's going on.
so
Every year, these past 3 years, on paper, this team. Last year, I was telling Teak and Baney, this team does not have a weakness.
so said you don't think he's gonna have a bad year. I might be on the other fence of that. Week
I mean,
one, where
not a good year, but not a bad year. I think he's going to be mediocre.
I'm still on the other side of the fence, bud. Week one where they blew out Cincy, 154 yards through the air, one TD, one pick, and he had a fumble. Week two against Pitt, it was like a slaughterhouse. One TD, one pick, two fumbles. It's not looking good for him. He plays a tough Tennessee defense. Then he has a division game against Baltimore. Has the bye week. After the bye week, you think, you're going to be rejuvenated. Well, guess what? They got San Fran after the bye week. So this team could be what, 1-4 after the bye? Do you
Yeah, I
do
mean,
you then pull the plug on Watson, sit him, just to shout out to myself real quick, little pat on the back. DTR is now the backup quarterback in Cleveland. Told you guys from that preseason games he showed out. Do you put DTR in and see what he can do?
You can't.
I mean,
Because they guaranteed him $250 million.
at $200 million
You
and
can't.
at
You
three
can't.
first-round picks,
That's what I'm saying.
they
The
can't
capital
pull the
is.
plug. You
The
pull the
capital
plug, you're gonna
is.
have some pissed
I'm,
off people.
I'm not saying pull the plug. I'm saying make an example.
Can't.
Get that fire going.
Financially, you can't.
Yeah, dude, they did Baker dirt. Like, dude, when Baker left there, I was so relieved. The energy, you could tell. I mean, like I said, I hate the Browns. You guys know that. I don't want to get into it. You guys watch Browns games
Every
with me.
time we bring up Cleveland in this podcast, you let us know you hate them. So I think us and the viewers already know you hate the Browns.
Getting rid of Baker for that capital, I mean, I remember we were playing them. Baker ran for a first down, intentionally made contact, ended up running someone over, got up, hyped up. That stadium erupted. The energy, it was there. I mean, I don't know why you would do that to the guy, especially for giving up your future 3 first-round picks. That's a lot for one guy, especially with that coming off the history and the baggage. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's a lot to give up.
Well, you see what Houston did with those picks, and might be a little lackluster now. We don't know, but I don't know. To me, if I'm coaching that team, and Stefanski's on the hot seat, so don't get that twisted either.
And
So
he was coach of the year too, wasn't he?
that's what I'm saying. So if my job's on the line, I don't care what we paid the guy. I'm trying to win football games. I got a stacked defense. You can't tell me that defense is not stacked. It's stacked. That wide receiver core is ridiculous. Yeah, Chubb went
Loaded,
down,
loaded.
but Chubb was a top back. Like, I'm here to win games, and if I have to sit a guy we guaranteed that money to, so be it. If we're winning games, in my eyes. So maybe it'll spark a fire. Maybe it'll do something, man. But I
It's
don't
still
know.
way early, so who knows? I mean, a lot of people predicted the Browns go to the playoffs. They still can. I mean, they're 1-1. I don't think it's ready to hit the panic button yet. I mean,
Yeah, we'll find out here. But moving on here for your tight end here. Oh, you had Njoku. My fault, right?
yep.
My fault. So let me go to mine here. I have Luke Musgrave. I'm going to keep pounding this drum until this defense proves me wrong. Saints defense gives up the least amount of points to tight ends. You're going to hear me say it every week until it happens, and it's not going to happen. Luke Musgrave. That's all I got for you.
Yeah. We talked about Jordan Love, that he's kind of performed better than we would have thought. I think he's going to struggle this week, and in doing so, we talked about Hunter Henry having a tough matchup, being the safety blanket. It also comes with experience, man, and knowing where to be and knowing where to sit in coverage and finding soft spots. And Musgrave's a rookie, man. And the Saints defense is super legit. So if he has a decent game and is fantasy relevant, I will be very, very impressed. Um, that being said, I think the Saints defense, we've talked about at length. I think that they put a cap on this game pretty good. And yeah, like I said, if Jordan Love continues to outperform and Musgraves can find those soft spots, then hey, we're having a different conversation next week. And I think we'll be impressed. But I don't think that the Saints are going to allow that to happen. I just don't.
Yeah, I agree with Teak and Baney. I mean, I got this week. It's going. I'm sitting everybody. I think it's going to be the first sloppy game he has. It's going to be a shit show. So yeah, I agree with the sit. I think it's going to be a low scoring ground and pound shit show. So I agree, Teak.
Yeah, these rookie tight ends, like I said before, it's going to take him years to get acclimated and get to the fantasy relevance you want him to be. I'm going to bring him up. He's going to catch another stray. Dalton Kincaid is another one. They don't get him the ball enough. His snap percentage went down. Luke Luke Musgraves went up actually. He just doesn't get targeted. He had 4 in the first game, 3 in the second. Uh, it just doesn't look good for him. Everybody was high on this guy, and I just don't see it right now. And I don't see it against the Saints in this week.
Yeah, great sit, bad matchup.
But
100%.
that wraps up our sits, guys. Please, please hit that subscribe button on the bottom. 70% of you are not subscribed to the channel. It is totally free. It's basically a follow button. That's all that is. It helps us out tremendously. We appreciate the viewership. Hey, we got our highest viewed episode, 200 on our last episode. So we thank you guys for that, viewing the episode. A lot more comments, a lot more mailbags. We appreciate the love that's coming in. And hopefully you get something out of these podcasts, man. That's why we do it. We love doing it, and
Get
hopefully
the free bets too. Discord, baby.
in the bets. So if you're a subscriber on YouTube, we do have a Discord now. You're gonna get every one of Badger's bets that go on there. You'll be able to see those because we don't put them all on YouTube site. So
And Teak and Baney get some little prop bets too. So
yeah, that's
yeah, I'm giving you guys a little shout out and some
Yeah.
credit. You guys been hitting some dough. So
and
get them all for free.
in the streets they've been calling Benny the prop bet Poppy. So
Yes.
He's never lied. Hey.
But
Die
th-
with them. You get them for free.
but thanks you guys. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Let 'em Know Fantasy Football Podcast. Join our community and follow us on all socials, or keep up with the episodes on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.